For more resources, visit rymonline.org.
The Local Youth Worker is a daily podcast that's centered on 5 questions each week. Ranging from the practical to the professional, we're looking for answers to the questions you're asking. Whether you're in full-time, part-time, or even volunteer youth ministry, this podcast is for you.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here with Reverend Kurt Cooper from Trinity Presbyterian Church in Montgomery, Alabama. We've talked about some of the best things you've done in ministry, and then yesterday we talked about some of the biggest mistakes you've made. Now, what we want to ask today is, what's an encouraging truth that you reflect upon to give you proper perspective in youth ministry? We know that any type of ministry is going to be difficult. It's going to be discouraging at times. So what's a truth, or maybe a few truths that you reflect on to give you encouragement and perspective in youth ministry?
Well, I have 2 things that I have to remind myself all the time. The first one is that all my children, all my students, they're smarter than me, every one of them, okay? Like, I did geometry, whatever grade I did geometry in, they did it 3 grades earlier. So whatever ACT score I made, they all make a better score than me on the ACT. I'm not exaggerating, they really all do. And they're all smarter than me. But none of them are wiser than me. No, they're smarter, they're more athletic, they're probably peak attractiveness level, like they're just, all the things like, all the things that like come with youth, that come along with youth. They have all of that going for them, okay? But they're not wise. They're experience poor. Experientially, they're in poverty. And I have to remind myself of that. And that relates to this, which is that these students are not finished products yet. And it can be very frustrating when students do dumb things or say hurtful things or make big mistakes, to think, oh man, there's just no hope for this kid. He's never going to get it together or whatever. But I'm sure that the youth minister 20 or 30 years ago was saying that about some of the people that are sitting on our session now. The people that are sitting on Trinity session are godly men. They're people who know the scriptures and help lead our church. But I don't know if they were really godly men and really leading the church at 16. All right, they were probably kind of being dumb idiots, like a lot of 16-year-olds are, and doing foolish things and making mistakes, and God had to work through that. And it's very frustrating sometimes to think, I can think to myself, if you don't see that immediate fruit from them, to think, are we doing anything? Are we making a difference? But I always have to remind myself that these kids are not finished products at 16, 17, 18, that God's got a lot of time to work on them, in their life and to mature them. And, they're going to be a different person 2 years into college than they were even, when they went to college. And then they're going to grow up and get married and, hopefully have families, and they're going to be a different person than they were even when they were in college. So, the Lord has an opportunity to work on people. They're not finished products. The REF minister is going to get all the credit for their spiritual development, and you're going to get none of it, okay? So let me discourage you for a moment. They're going to ask him to do his wedding. They're going to come home from college and be like, hey, I just heard about justification by faith alone. I'd never heard that before. And you're going to want to,
slap him across the face.
Oh, I was going to go more than that, but that's okay. My mind went to more violent. I had weapons in my hands. Yeah, I had a claymore in my hand at that point, but the sword, not the mine. Anyway, I just realized that's 2 different kind of weapons. But the best thing about this is they're so smart, they're so athletic, they're so hip, they know what's cool and you don't, and all that.
Even the word hip.
Yeah, even the word hip, yeah. And the word hip is for people who are about to break their hip. So but they are just so like tied in and keyed into what is good and cool, all right? But they're also the most insecure that they'll ever be, all right? They're the most unsure of the world around them, and they have the most questions. And our role as a youth minister is we get to walk alongside people when they're at the most awkward they're ever going to be. They're most immature, the most just just think of a 13-year-old boy or a 12-year-old girl, and just how awkward and silly, and they just don't have anything figured out, or have so much not figured out, and we get to walk alongside them, and they're not going to be finished products when we're done with them, all right? But we get to love them when it's the hardest to love them, Yeah.
And so you're saying, an encouraging truth for you is knowing, okay, they may be smarter than you, but you're wiser. Just a follow-up question: do you tell them that? Do you tell your students?
Yes, I say it to them all the time. I tell them, I want them to know that I'm impressed with them. So I tell them, I'm like, you guys are smart, and you guys are doing stuff that I couldn't do. I said, but here's the deal. And someone told me this once, and it was eye-opening for me. When I first got out of seminary, our senior pastor's son at the first church I was called to, when I first got out of seminary.
Sorry, somebody just walked in the room.
Yeah, someone just walked into the room. We had to wave them out. They're going to wonder what in the world we're doing. It's a high school student, so they're probably like, they had microphones. What's going on here? They probably know what a podcast. They probably have their own podcast. So
they're so smart.
Yeah, they walked over and they were like, hey Twitch, hey, what's going on YouTube? Hit that like and subscribe button. All right, so
you tell them all the time you're impressed.
Yes, I do, and because someone told me when I first got out of seminary, they said, my senior pastor's son said after I got ordained, he was like, congratulations on getting ordained, and he said now you can do everything that my dad can do. Like, I was ordained, and I was like, yeah, I guess so. He goes, but the big difference is that you just started and he's been doing it for years, so you got a lot of growing to do. I was like, thanks, kid. It was kind of gut-wrenching and also true at the same time. But I want to tell them, hey, I'm impressed with you. What you can do, I cannot do. But you have not lived a lot of life. You're still living with your parents. You haven't paid a bill or a mortgage or rent or a car payment. You have got a lot. There's a lot that's out in front of you. And you can do really well at school, and you can be really athletic and do sports. And I'm honest with them. I'm like, listen, in 4 or 5 years, no one's going to care about any of that. None of that's going to be, that's foundational stuff that you might be able to use some principles that are learned there later on. So there's there's not no value in it. It's not valueless. But at the same time, what you're pinning what is really important to you right now is going to change. And that's the advantage that I have. I'm like a sheepdog. The sheep think the sheepdog is just another sheep because they're dumb. You know what I mean? But the sheepdog is smarter and wiser, particularly wiser, and he knows where to go. And that's what a youth minister is, what a parent does. Is look, I've lived life. I know some things. I've experienced some things that you haven't experienced yet. But I do tell them. I tell them that. They need to know that. I also tell them that being an adult is way better than being a kid. Because I think the world tells them this is the best time of your life, so you better enjoy it because, whatever. I just think that's a bad message. I think it's really fun being a dad. I mean, it's a different kind of fun. Changing diapers is not, Snapchatting.
But I think that goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wisdom. Wisdom tells you what's truly fun and what's not. And of course, changing a diaper is very laborious and frustrating and comes at the wrong moments. But you love your child, and there's just something incredibly special about being a parent.
Yeah.
So that makes sense for sure.
I had way more fun taking my son to Disney World than I ever had going as a kid.
Yeah.
Way more fun. And so, there's something there. Anyway, wisdom. I think that's encouraging. Kids are not finished products, to kind of sum it up, I guess.
Great, yeah. That's good. Anything else you want to add to that? Didn't you say you had 2, or am I thinking of...
I think those are the same thing. One, that I'm wise within my kids, and then also that they're not finished products. So don't get frustrated if it's not really working out, if they don't seem to be getting it.
Yeah.
They might need to go to college and live on their own and make some mistakes for a minute and have an REF minister or Campus Crusade guy come to them and be like, ask the questions that you're asking. They just weren't ready to hear it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you should just keep asking. You should be faithful in your ministry, but just understand that for some people, you're just the first link in their chain, all right? You're not the last one, or you're not the 5th one. You're the first. So you should be encouraged in that.
Yeah, that's really good, Kurt. And as you're saying all that, I'm thinking of just resources. We constantly want to tell people about good resources. But Dr. Walt Mueller, who's the president for Center for Parent and Youth Understanding, he wrote a book called The Space Between.
Yeah.
And it might be, 130 pages. It's not a very long book, but I remember that I read that at the right time in youth ministry because I was getting frustrated with students, and it's just all about their developmental process. And it just reminded me to be patient with them, and that these teenagers, like you said, and their frontal lobe is still developing and all that. And so it was a very encouraging resource, and I've given that to parents as well.
The Space Between, it's a book by Walt Mueller. It's also a Dave Matthews song, so it's awesome.
Yep. All right, thanks, Kurt.